What if I told you the most dominant woman in tennis didn't lose her throne on the court? She lost it in a boardroom, and she never saw it coming. 3 years. That's how long Arena Sabalenka ran women's tennis, like she owned it. Not just winning, dominating. The kind of dominance that makes broadcasters run out of superlatives. The kind that makes opponents change their game plans the night before just hoping anything might work. Nothing did. She was relentless, precise, and frankly terrifying to face across a net. But here's the part nobody talks about enough. Sabalenka wasn't just building a tennis career. She was building a financial empire, and by early 2025, that empire was worth around $300 million in sponsorships alone. Think about that number for a second. $300 million. Gucci wanted her face. Emirates put her in their campaigns. Nike locked her in. These weren't small deals thrown at a rising star. These were long-term, 8-figure commitments from companies that believed in her marketability the way investors believe in blue-chip stocks. Her image was everywhere. Billboards in Dubai, glossy double-page spreads in luxury magazines, global campaign launches, all Sabalenka. And why not? Every match she played drew millions of eyeballs. Every tournament appearance boosted engagement. Every viral moment on court translated directly into brand value. Analysts were saying her annual sponsorship income was somewhere between $40 and $50 million. Add in prize money, appearance fees, and personal investments, and you were looking at a woman who seemed financially untouchable. People in her industry used the word permanent when they talked about her brand. Nobody saw a ceiling. Nobody imagined a floor either. And that right there, that certainty, that assumption of permanence, was exactly where the story starts to crack. Because 30 days, that's all it took. In the span of a single month, $300 million began to disappear. Not because she lost matches. Not because of scandal or injury. Because a 20-year-old from Manila walked onto a tennis court in Miami and made people feel something they hadn't felt in years. Hope. Her name is Alex. And when she first showed up on the radar in early 2025, nobody was paying serious attention. She wasn't seated high. The cameras weren't hunting for her between games. Sponsors weren't filling her inbox. She was just another young player trying to carve out space in a sport that already had its queen. But then she won a match she wasn't supposed to win. Then another. Then another. And suddenly, the tennis world stopped and stared. Because this wasn't just upsets on a scoreboard. This was a story unfolding in real time, and the world was absolutely hooked. Think about what Alex represented in that moment. She was young. She was hungry. She came from the Philippines, a country that doesn't exactly have a history of producing tennis superstars. There was no blueprint for her success, no system built around her, no machinery. Just her racket, and an almost unsettling belief in herself. People connected to that instantly. You know why? Because most people watching sports aren't world number ones. Most people watching have been the underdog at some point. Most people know what it feels like to be underestimated. Alex gave them a face to put on that feeling. And that, right there, is worth more to a brand than any Grand Slam title ever will be. Social media caught fire. TikTok clips of her matches racking up millions of views. Instagram going crazy with her story. YouTube channels just like this one, covering her rise because people genuinely wanted to watch. And here's what sponsors noticed first. It wasn't even her wins. It was her engagement rate. The percentage of people who saw her content and actually interacted with it was extraordinary. She wasn't just getting views. She was getting investment from regular people who felt personally connected to her journey. Nike's marketing team saw those numbers and started making calls. Babolat paid attention. Globe Telecom in the Philippines basically adopted her as a national hero. But it didn't stop there. International luxury brands, the same ones who were paying Sabalenka to represent their image of polished dominance, started quietly asking a different question. What if they backed the story instead of the trophy? And that question changed everything. Here's something the casual sports fan doesn't realize about the sponsorship world. It is absolutely ruthless. There is no loyalty built on sentiment. When a brand signs an athlete, they are making a calculated bet on future returns. And when the data starts suggesting a better bet exists, They move. No dramatic announcements, no heartfelt farewell. They just redirect the budget and let the contracts quietly restructure. That's exactly what happened to Sabalenka. March 2025. Gucci released a statement about restructuring their partnership. Corporate language, carefully worded, devastating in meaning. Translation: they wanted Alex instead. Then Emirates followed. The airline that had made Sabalenka's face part of their global identity started exploring what their contracts called mutual termination clauses.
Why?
Because their own marketing data was showing something they couldn't ignore. Younger audiences, the exact demographic every premium brand is desperately chasing, weren't responding to Sabalenka the way they once had. They were responding to Alex. And in brand mathematics, that's a 5-alarm fire. Then Nike dropped the announcement that sent shockwaves through the entire sports world. A new global partnership with Alex. $15 million. A deal that didn't just celebrate her. It declared her the future. And once Nike moves, everyone moves. Within 72 hours, 3 more major sponsors signaled they were reconsidering their arrangements with Sabalenka. The financial damage was immediate and staggering. What had taken years to build, that $300 million sponsorship architecture started hemorrhaging value by the day. Sabalenka's agents scrambled. Her team made calls.
They tried to hold the line.
But here's what nobody tells you about brand momentum. Once it shifts, you cannot push it back. You can slow it, maybe. You cannot reverse it. The narrative had already moved, and in 2025, the narrative is the game. Sports media didn't help either. Commentators started asking questions that would have seemed absurd just months earlier. Was Sabalenka's image too cold? Too intense? Had audiences started associating dominance with predictability? Was her playing style starting to feel like a formula rather than a force? None of these questions were really about tennis. They were about whether she was still the compelling character that brands needed her to be. And the fact that people were even asking them told you everything you needed to know about where things stood. Meanwhile, Alex kept winning. Not everything, not always, but enough. And every win added another chapter to a story that was practically writing itself. The underdog from Southeast Asia, defying expectations. Every post she made, every press conference she gave, every moment captured courtside felt genuine in a way that can't be manufactured. Authenticity, real or perceived, is the most valuable currency in modern sport. She had it. In abundance. Sabalenka felt the shift in ways that went beyond the financial statements. Suddenly, the prime broadcast slots started tilting. The media attention redistributed. Appearance fees that sponsors once competed over started facing downward pressure. Prize money stayed the same. Tennis doesn't adjust based on your marketability, but everything surrounding it shrank. And here's what made it genuinely painful to watch from the outside. She was still winning. She was still the world number one. Technically, objectively, statistically, she was still the best tennis player on earth. And none of it mattered in the arena, where modern athlete wealth is actually built. The gap between what Sabalenka earned and what she could have earned under her previous sponsorship structure wasn't a rounding error. Over the lifetime of those contracts, the difference exceeded $300 million. That's not exaggeration. That's arithmetic. And somewhere in there is a deeply uncomfortable question about what athletic excellence is actually worth anymore. The tennis community had a lot of feelings about all of this. Some players expressed sympathy privately, understanding exactly how brutal the sponsorship ecosystem can be. Others watched nervously, because if Sabalenka, the reigning world number one, the most dominant player of her era, could lose everything commercially in a month, what security did anyone have? The answer that nobody wanted to say out loud was none. Nobody has commercial security in modern sport. You are always one new narrative away from being yesterday's story. And that realization changed how a lot of people in that locker room saw their careers. Because here's the truth that Alex's rise made impossible to avoid. Youth had quietly become more valuable than achievement. Potential had become more marketable than proven excellence. The story of becoming great now genuinely outperforms the reality of being great. Alex understood this without even thinking about it consciously. She wasn't trying to displace Sabalenka on the rankings. She was just being herself. Young, hungry, relatable, and the market responded to that with a ferocity that surprised even her team. Sabalenka's story was dominance. Dominance is a full stop. Alex's story was a question mark, and question marks keep people watching. What happens next? Will she win the Grand Slam? Can she sustain this? Is she the real deal? Every match she plays carries that energy, that sense of a story still being written. Sabalenka's story, at least in the commercial world's eyes, had already been written. She won. She dominated.
The end.
Brands don't pay a premium for the end of a story. They pay for the middle. They pay for the moment when everything is still possible and the audience is leaning forward. Alex was that moment. Sabalenka, through no fault of her own, had already reached the part of the story that everyone respects but nobody urgently needs to watch. The months that followed the sponsorship collapse were quiet in a way that spoke volumes. The calls came in less. The opportunities narrowed. The buzz that had surrounded her every match, that sense of event, of occasion, softened. She played on. She won matches. She collected trophies. But the ecosystem around her had reorganized itself around someone else. And the question that lingers over everything, the one that still doesn't have a clean answer, is whether any of this was actually fair. Sabalenka delivered on every promise she ever made to a sponsor. She won when she said she'd win. She dominated when the market needed domination. She gave brands exactly what they paid for, and in return, they found someone newer and walked away. That's not betrayal in any legal sense. It's just commerce. But it reveals something important about the contract between modern sports and the athletes who power it. There is no loyalty. There is only the next story. So where does this leave Sabalenka? Still competing, still elite, still capable of winning Grand Slams and defending her ranking. Her legacy on court is untouchable. History will remember her dominance. But the commercial era, that extraordinary window where she was not just the best player in the world, but the most valuable human asset in women's sport, that window has closed. And what Alex's story tells us, more than anything about tennis, is that no matter how high you build your empire, someone will eventually arrive with a better story, and the world will choose the story every single time. The real game isn't played on the court. It never was.